excited about this show, man. Big Lebowski is a favorite of all of ours, I know, and just can't wait to celebrate it, pay our little own tribute to it tonight.
It sounds like a good idea to me. I mean, it's a movie. We watched it again last night. I hadn't seen it in a while, and it's just to say it holds up well is putting it mildly. It's genius.
It is a classic, and it gets better with each viewing. It never loses its edge. First of all, are we in agreement that it is one of the best comedies of all time, if not the best?
I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's definitely up there.
I think it is the best comedy of all time.
Okay, I'll grant you that.
I literally am still laughing out loud every time I watch it. It gets better. I still notice things every time I watch it. It's just, Jamie, put it really well one time and said that it's got, every kind of humor that you can possibly imagine is represented in this movie, whether it's, ridiculous sight gags or just really witty intellectual humor. It's all there.
I made a comment that it's the smartest comedy ever made about stupid people. It really is. I mean, a lot of it is very basement humor, and a lot of it's very highbrow. Would you guys appreciate it like you do now the first time you watched it, though?
Yes, I watched it. We watched it last night, and I watched it in its entirety last night with my family, and none of us could stop laughing. We were, I was on the floor, but there's some things I noticed that I could appreciate more watching it at 36 than I could at 27, if that makes sense.
Right.
And obviously what we were talking about earlier today is every time they ask the dude, what do you do? And, it's just one of these great, that the movie takes place in Los Angeles should not be lost. It is like the city of slackers in one sense. You have the ultimate slacker. Everyone is trying to do something else in Los Angeles. Meanwhile, the dude is very content
to do nothing.
And it's beautiful. But
it
gentlemen,
yes.
We have, and let me just give a brief introduction to our next caller. We have a very special guest with us tonight who can speak firsthand to the cultural phenomenon that is the Big Lebowski. He is the co-founder of the Lebowski Fest, which is now in its 6th year, and he's also the co-author of the book, I'm a Lebowski, You're a Lebowski. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure to welcome to the show Mr. Will Russell.
Will,
are you there?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Will, how you doing?
Doing well, thanks.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, this is a real honor to have you with us tonight, and for this film. I'm going to just jump out of the gate right here. Why this movie?
Man, that's a good question. That is actually one of the main questions that we address in the book that we wrote. We interviewed all the actors from the movie. We interviewed the inspirations for the characters. We interviewed fans, and that was a question that we asked everybody. And everybody, kind of had different answers. For me, I think it's, the characters in the movie are so awesome. I just love those characters. The dialogue is so quotable. And, at the end of the day, it's just a really funny movie. And it's one of those movies that stands up to repeat viewings, It's like a great rock album. It's like you can watch it over and over and over again, and it just keeps somehow getting better.
You don't even have to watch it. You can just listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, have it on in the background. I mean, whenever I'm feeling a little bummed out, I just put it in, just maybe watch 20 minutes of it or something, and I'm laughing out loud before I know it.
Right.
Did you get a sense when you were conducting these interviews for the book that the actors had any realization that they were working on something so special, or were they as surprised as everyone that it became this kind of phenomenon that it has?
Everybody was really pretty surprised. Jeff Bridges, for example, he thought the movie was awesome. Like, when he did it, he was really kind of bummed out that it didn't do well, in its initial release. He was like,
right.
I don't understand why people aren't into this. So he was really pleased when he saw kind of the whole cult following, developing behind it. But most of the people, we'd be interviewing, like Julianne Moore or something, and we'd have all these nerdy questions for her, and she would just be like, we did this like 8 or 9 years ago. She's like, I'm having trouble remembering this part. And we're just like, you don't understand. So yeah, I mean, to the actors, I think it was they were just making a movie. You know, they had a job. They got hired to do a movie. But to us, to the fans, it means something altogether different.
Yeah, it surprises me how many stars, how many high-profile actors are actually in that film.
Yeah.
You kind of forget, and then you revisit it, and you see Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Julianne Moore, and just
Dan Gazzara.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tara Reid.
Yeah. Yes. Will, I have to ask you a very important question, though. Were you hooked right away?
No, not really, actually. The first time I saw it in the theaters, and I didn't dislike it, but I was kind of, indifferent to it a little bit. I was like, that was kind of cool, but I don't know, it didn't really do a lot for me. And then I ended up catching it on video again, and then it was the third time that I saw it. And this has been generally true for most people I talk to, that it takes 3 times until all of a sudden you're like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Right. It's really funny. You bring it. I don't know. When I saw it the first time, I saw it on I was talking with Jamie earlier, it was a very busy film-going weekend.
Yeah.
And there were just parts that really, I couldn't stop laughing while watching this film. I saw it with a couple of friends, and we saw it on a Saturday after it came out. First of all, John Goodman's always been a very funny, talented actor, but he seems to let loose in this film like never before and never after, I may add. And John Turturro, the Coen brothers always get a great performance out of him. And what I realized, I was watching it again last night, he's not in the film that much, Turturro.
Oh, God, no.
But when he is, it's priceless.
Yeah. He really, it gets burned into your memory. So when you think back on the Big Lebowski, you think about the Jesus.
Oh, you can't help but think about the Jesus.
But in terms of actual screen time, you're right. I mean, he doesn't have probably more than 6 or 7 minutes. We talked to him about that role, and it was pretty cool to learn that a lot of the things that the Jesus did were Turturro's idea. Like the Coke nail when he has the purple fingernail.
Right.
And licking the ball. Those were Turturro's ideas. And it was funny, he said that the dance that he does and kind of his whole persona was based on Muhammad Ali.
Oh, I don't know what to say about that exactly.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, Muhammad Ali is from where I'm from, Louisville, Kentucky, and if you watch it with that in mind, you'll see like when Muhammad Ali is like taunting people and yelling at people and like getting in people's faces, and he does that little dance.
Right.
There is some similarities there, but Turturro said when he first saw like the dailies or whatever of him in that jumpsuit doing this thing, he was like, this is either going to ruin my career or it's going to make me famous.
We might have touched on this before, but we probably did. When did you kind of realize that this cultural phenomenon was happening? And it also, just for me, refresh me, when did this really become? It is this cult film, the ultimate cult film, if you will, of the 21st century.
Yeah. Well, I mean, me and my buddy Scott, who started the Lebowski Fest, we used to like sell T-shirts together, and back in 2002 we were just vending this like tattoo convention. We were really bored, and we would quote lines from the Big Lebowski to entertain ourselves. And it occurred to us that we should have a Big Lebowski party at a bowling alley. And so we put one on in October of 2002, and we thought that maybe like 20 of our friends would show up. And we ended up having like 150 people come out. People traveled from all over, and it just kind of spread, and we were just kind of shocked to learn that there were so many other people like us that were kind of obsessed with the movie. And so we put up the website, LebowskiFest.com, and the next thing we knew, like Spin Magazine had picked it up as like a little blurb in their events guide, and we went from 150 people to like 1,200 people.
Oh, my.
Yeah, so, I mean, we had no idea, Our first, while we were at this particular tattoo convention, we were quoting lines, and this other booth next to us kind of joined in, these guys from another state, and we kind of had our first taste of like bonding, over the movie.
Right.
So that was where we first started to realize that we weren't the only ones,
Yeah. Do you screen the film during Lebowski Fest? Is that the culmination of the weekend? How does the weekend work?
It's basically a two-night thing. The first night we usually have bands play, and then we screen the movie after the bands play. And then the next day we'll have some bands, and then we have the main event inside of a bowling alley. And it's just madness. We pack it full of people in costumes like nihilists and Valkyrie, severed toes, and giant Creedence cassette tapes, and everybody drinks White Russians and bowls, and we have like costume contests and trivia contests. And
that's
bowling.
Quite a combination, White Russians and bowling.
Let me tell you.
What do you have any? Have there been any fond memories for you for the festival so far?
Yeah, I mean, they're all just so amazing because it's just like being around a bunch of people like me. And, I mean, I think the standout moment was the Lebowski Fest we did in Los Angeles. Jeff Bridges showed up.
Oh.
And, like, he wore his jellies that he wears in the movie. A lot of that stuff he wears in the movies belongs to him. So he wore his jelly sandals, and we were sitting, like, backstage after he had actually played that night. He plays guitar and stuff. And I asked him about his jellies, and he was like, "What size shoe do you wear?" I was like, 11, and he was like, "Here," and he took off one of his jellies, and he threw it over, and he's like, "Try it on." I was like, "Oh, my God." So I took off my shoe, and I went to put my foot in, and he stopped me, and he's like, "No, man, I want you to take your sock off. I want you to get the full experience." So I was like, "Okay." So I slipped my foot in there. It was a little wet. But I could feel the spirit of the dude rush up into my leg, and I was like instantly relaxed. I was just like, oh yeah. So
I think that movie, I think Big Lebowski works so well just based on Bridges' performance. If you think about him, he's always regarded as one of our most underrated actors.
Oh yeah.
You think about the dude, and then you see what he did directly after the dude. He played the president in that film, The Contender.
Yeah, that's right.
Incredible, right?
Well, I think it's incredible. I mean, I think it's great. Only in America can you be the ultimate slacker and then become the leader of the free world.
Well, some would argue that the leader of our free world right now is the ultimate slacker.
And let me tell you this, and I will say this right now, and I will promise I will not get political anymore. That is an insult to slackers everywhere. Jesus Christ.
You talked a little bit about some of the inspirations for the characters. Obviously, there's Jeff Dowd, who was the inspiration for the dude, and then there's one, the one that a lot of people don't know about. I'm sure I know you do. John Milius.
Yeah,
I just learned about that today.
Yeah,
really,
he's quite a character, man. He wrote Apocalypse Now. He wrote and directed Conan the Barbarian, Red Dawn. You may remember with Patrick Swayze.
Right.
Yeah. But like, he's kind of like this. He's like a super conservative Hollywood.
Yes, he is.
And what's funny is that shit doesn't fly well in Hollywood. Hollywood's a very liberal place. So Milius,
yes, yes, it is.
Against the grain, as he put it, he's not housebroken. But he apparently, I heard a story that he has a big like mushroom cloud mural in his house, and on his 40th birthday, he cut his birthday cake with a sword used from Conan the Barbarian. And he's just the funny thing about him being Walter being based on him is that he's totally cool with that. Like he's like, yeah, I take it as a compliment.
I think he would like Walter. I think the two of them would get along.
Well, Walter and he would get along splendidly. I mean,
He said his favorite part of the movie is when Walter bites the ear off the nihilist at the end and spits it in the air. He said it makes him want to stand up and cheer.
Well, I'm glad that Mr. Milius can get that satisfaction. I actually, I'm not a conservative. I'm not actually opposite on political views, but I do appreciate the early work of John Milius.
Yeah.
But I will say this: Red Dawn is got to be the greatest science fiction film ever made. That I mean, talk about unrealistic. But I
think Jerry did a J before he watched Red Dawn, maybe.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just at the time. I remember when that movie came out, and it was just like people were just like, "You've got to be kidding me!" He thinks that the Nicaraguans and the Cubans can do a full-scale invasion of Middle America.
Yeah, but doesn't that sound like the kind of scheme that Walter would cook up?
Exactly.
I think what I want to know, and I'm going to throw this out here. This isn't on the planet. Do you think, and it would be a bad idea, just But what would a sequel to The Big Lebowski, if it took place today, where would these characters be?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Especially
man.
Walter. I mean, he'd probably be
you know,
gung-ho, Bush,
Like if it was in modern day, like 2007?
Yeah. Or even if you want to do it right at the beginning of the current war, like in 2003.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Has there been any feelers out there to any of the actors want a sequel to it?
Well, John Goodman specifically said that making The Big Lebowski was like the highlight of his career, and that Walter is his favorite character that he's ever done, and that he loves when people come up to him and quote The Big Lebowski.
He didn't say King Ralph?
No, he said if it would have been Fred Flintstone, he would have stuck a 9mm in his mouth. Walter's the one that stuck. But yeah, he said I would love nothing more than to get together with those guys and do a sequel. He said, but it would mess everything up. He said, you can't do it without Donnie.
No, that's true. That's very true. And last night watching it, I was heartbroken when Donnie, when Donnie leaves us. I was very heartbroken during that scene. I always am. But all right, can you? For the 6th annual Lebowski Fest that's coming up in Louisville on July 20th, 21st this year, what can attendees expect?
What's that?
What can the attendees expect for this year's Lebowski Fest?
Friday night, the first night, we're going to have a couple bands play, Dr. Dog and Vietnam. Have you ever heard of Vietnam? They're going to play, and then we're going to screen the movie, and this is going to be outdoors in a big field next to the bowling alley. And then the next day is what we call the garden party, where we have a bunch of bands play, like the legendary Shack Shakers, and then like this 400-pound rapper named Kentucky Prophet going to perform. And we have like Lebowski-themed games, like the ringer toss, where we throw a bag of dirty undies towards a target, and the marmot fling, and the Sheriff of Malibu coffee mug toss. And, lots of tosses going on there. And then that Saturday night is the main event, the bowling event, where your ticket gets you unlimited bowling and shoe rental, and then all the costume contests and trivia contests and a whole lot of what have you.
Wow, it sounds like a really good time. Hell, I'll have to come to that.
Everybody enjoys it, and the people that come are good people. It's kind of people that appreciate Coen Brothers' sense of humor, but still like to party and have a good time.
I was going to ask you about that. Like any movie and any phenomenon that has a lot of followers, whether it's the Rocky Horror Picture Show or something, or Monty Python. Sometimes there's people that are just really like so into it that it's scary, and that they can make you feel a little uncomfortable. Are there any people like that with The Big Lebowski, or are they all, do they all like just kind of dudified kind of attitude?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's pretty laid back, and you're kind of asking the wrong person, because I am one of them. I am.
Right. That's good. No, I like you, so I look forward to hanging out with you. So
yeah, it's a fun crowd. I mean, it's really diverse, man. There's a lot of like college kids. But there's also like some middle-aged, like there's Vietnam vets that come out that are into like the Walter character. There's lawyers and layabouts and bums and all kinds of people.
Well, I want to ask you something before we get to how our listeners can purchase tickets to the Lebowski Fest and purchase your book as well. Do you have a favorite moment or a favorite line from the film?
My favorite lines are kind of always changing, but I think right now my favorite is the enjoying my coffee scene, where Walter gets really mad in the family restaurant, and that lady asks him to keep his voice down. He's like, I'm staying. I'm finishing my coffee. Enjoying my coffee. And like he's so clearly not enjoying it, but he's just determined not to be pushed around.
Right.
Because he was a veteran.
Yeah, for me, I find myself laughing hysterically at a part that kind of whizzes by other people. It's when the landlord knocks on his door and says something to the effect of, dude, the rent's due.
Tomorrow's already the 10th.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's like, far out.
Far out, man.
He doesn't get it at first. So for some reason, that just slays me every time.
Like this guy would just knock on the door to tell him that, tomorrow's already the 10th.
It's all so good. I mean, for me, it's just like 2 hours of bliss. I'm just like, I just enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah. So tell us about how people can purchase these the tickets to Lebowski.
But also tell us about the book. Also, I'm a Lebowski. You're a Lebowski.
It's a fan book, that we put together, and we did a bunch of stuff. We interviewed all the actors from the film about the movie. We interviewed the inspirations like Jeff Dowd, John Milius, and a few other guys. We even found the real Little Larry. That whole homework in a baggie scene actually happened.
Wow!
And we interviewed both the guys and we found Little Larry, who, until we called him that day, had no idea that he had influenced the scene in The Big Lebowski. Totally blew this kid's mind. He had seen the movie, but it didn't occur to him that was what happened to him when he was 12. So that was one of the crowning achievements of the book, was tracking him down and interviewing him. We talked to a bunch of fans, Patton Oswalt, Tony Hawk, the Powerpuff Girls creator, Craig McCracken, is a big fan. You see a lot of Lebowski references in his cartoons.
Right.
A bunch of other people, and then we've got a whole bunch of trivia, and then we've got this little time code guide where you can watch the movie and it'll say at 3 minutes and 42 seconds it'll have a little bit of trivia, that's Jeff Dowd in the background, or there's a kind of a locations guide. There's a bunch of goofy stuff, dude libs, and how to dudify your office space, and there's a Little Larry flip book where you can flip through and Larry will just stonewall you the whole time.
And our listeners can purchase this book through Amazon?
Yeah, you can get it a bunch of places, but if you go to LebowskiFest.com, there's a page that kind of talks about the book and a link to Amazon. Same with the tickets for the events. They can purchase them through our website. There's links through the website. LebowskiFest.com has got a bunch of cool stuff, a bunch of pictures from the fests and what have you.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, that's wonderful. We really appreciate you calling in today on a Memorial Day weekend and sharing this with us, because this is definitely one of those films. I guess I'd like to close. Do you think this film has, in the late 70s and late 80s, we had a bunch of great comedies like Caddyshack and Animal House and Stripes. Do you think this film has maybe surpassed those in its cult-like status?
Yeah, I don't really know. I think that in a lot of ways this one is smarter than those.
Oh, yes, without a doubt.
Yeah, so I think that gives it a little more, I don't know, just a little more for people to sink their teeth into. Like last year we had an academic symposium. People talked about the philosophies and all kinds of different stuff, whereas those are really funny movies, but then at the end of the day, they're just kind of funny movies.
That's true. At the time, because they featured, like Harold Ramis was the writer behind us, they are considered by today's standards actually very subversive, but no, I mean, The Big Lebowski intellectually is light years ahead of them.
Yeah, and it's got political stuff going on too. It's got religious stuff going on. There's all kinds of angles to look at The Big Lebowski.
A lot of ins and outs, a lot of what have you.
A lot of what have you.
Well, a lot of interested parties.
Will, thank you so much for calling in and sharing this information with us. We really appreciate it. It was a pleasure to finally talk to you.
All right, dudes, take her easy.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. What a great guest.
Yes, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I could feel that he was a kindred spirit. I mean, even if we weren't talking about Lebowski, I feel like I could, chill with this guy, maybe do a J and some bowling.
Yeah, I sent him the confirmation email today to remind him to what time to call in and everything, and the whole lineup of stuff we'd be talking to him about. And he wrote back and he said, "I'll be there, man."
I'll be there, man.
He was great. Dude, he was awesome. I mean,
Far out, man. Far fucking out.
Why does the Lebowski work? Why do you guys think it works ultimately?
The dude. I think it's the dude. Everyone has been, at some point, like today, it's Memorial Day weekend. A lot of people have the day off tomorrow. Today, on the weekends, you just kind of want to chill out. You don't want to do anything. You get in one of those moods, or maybe you want to be like the dude, you just want to, chill. But the dude is like that all the time, and everyone can identify with that. Everyone's like, yeah, just all the dude wants is his rub back, like.
It is. It's like this is the Robert Benton film, The Late Show, almost in one sense. But it's basically, this is about some guy has deliberately soils his rug. And it's all about, and the rug is like the MacGuffin at the end, halfway through the movie. No one cares about the rug anymore. But, it's a horrible act, and I've seen my share of soiled rugs, but, it's a horrible thing to have your rug that happen to it.
I think personally, for the greatest joy that I get from watching the movie is the interaction between the three of them, the dude, Walter, and Donnie.
They are iconic. They really are.
It just seems so perfectly timed. They're back and forth. It's just so effortless, and I've never seen chemistry like that on screen between actors and their characters going at it with each other. It's
not between three, maybe between two, but you're right. Between three people, it's like this. It's like something that you don't see very often. That strong.
It's just this perfect, priceless thing, and that's why I don't think they should touch it with a sequel. I mean,
no, I agree. I just brought that up because I was kind of, how this horrible trend that started, I guess, a couple of fan fiction. Let's find out what Harry Potter is doing when he's 55 in a retirement home or something. I just thought in that way it would be kind of curious. Although I would never want to see it because whenever you make a sequel so long after the original film, it sucks.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with you guys though because I always thought it was the kind of movie that would be. First of all, it's not like it's the Coen brothers directed it, but it was written by somebody else. They wrote it, and they wrote it with, this sort of, it is kind of loosely based around like a Dashiell Hammett kind of detective story, and that's what it's intended to be. There's no reason, I don't think.
Genius. That was genius that you just came up with that. That's genius. Dude, that we can quote that. I mean,
I didn't come up with it. They've said that themselves. That's what they were kind of wanting to do, like a detective story, and that's what the movie is. And that's why the brother Seamus at the end of the movie sort of identifies with him as a fellow private detective, even though he doesn't intend to be. That's what the dude is. I think they could easily make, I always thought Son of Dude would be a good title for the second movie, since he obviously is having a child,
That's cool. Hey, guys, we have a caller from the 571 area code. Let's patch him through. Hey, welcome to Movie Geeks United.
Please leave that motherfucking movie alone and don't make another sequel.
Oh, come on.
Hey, who do we have here?
Oh, there's no reason to make another sequel. It's perfect the way it is. I'm tired of everything being bastardized and coming in threes. This is Mark, by the way.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
There's no fucking reason why they go out.
Simon is not the issue here. And I will say that my favorite part of that movie, among many, is when they're burying Donnie at sea, and Walter's releasing the ashes into the Pacific Ocean. They start blowing all over the dude's face, and he's taking what is it? A Balzac full of Donnie in his face.
Yeah.
Chris.
Out of a Folgers can, though.
Yes, out of.
Yeah.
Just because we're brief doesn't make us fat.
But it is our most reasonably priced receptacle. I fucking love that movie. Any attempt to try to ruin it by going back, and the only reason that anyone would go back and try to make another sequel is because of money. It's always
but here's a case where you don't. All right, and it's probably why there would never be a sequel because the first one made no money. In the theater, I don't really see there being. I don't see. I mean, and even the company it was distributed, Polygram Entertainment, is out of business now. So I don't really see there being a sequel because
I think the dignified thing to do, which they're doing right now, is to come together annually, drink your Caucasians, talk about bowling, whatnot, and listen to really, really bad Euro techno crap, and be done with it.
It's one of those things. It's like I don't know if it would work. I don't know if it could work. But I think that there is a possibility that it could work. And sometimes they made the two Jakes. Does that ruin Chinatown for anybody? No.
You're talking to someone who doesn't mind the two Jakes, doesn't love it, but doesn't hate it though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This could be, this could be very much the same thing. And the Coen brothers have never made a sequel.
Do you think that the dude should be like Abbott and Costello, like the dude meets Frankenstein?
No.
Nobody's saying that.
You're ugly fucking jerk off face off my movie. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, anytime. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it if all the original creators were back.
Well, that's what I mean. Under no circumstances would I be interested. Well, I would go see it no matter who was in it, but I don't think
I'd fly down to Florida to see it with you.
Oh man, we'd fly up there. You'd have to have Jeff Bridges. You'd have to have Walter. You'd have to have the Coen brothers. You got to have everybody, literally everyone. You could bring new characters back, but it wouldn't work without the key people.
It absolutely would not work without Flea. I think that's the...
Well, right there, I mean, I can't argue with that.
Without Flea and Tara Reid, I mean, you can't...
Tara Reid, she's the Lana Turner of the 21st century. I did not say that.
But yeah, and I've heard interviews with Jeff Bridges where he has said, "This is the favorite character I've ever played." He's very in love with that character.
I would not. I'm telling you, I would not count it out. It would not surprise me at all. Every filmmaker gets curious at some point about making a sequel. I think. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if one day they did that, the Coen brothers. And I think if anybody if they set out to make a sequel, I don't think there's a lot of filmmakers out there that I would have faith in to take care of, my baby, which is how I feel about the Big Lebowski. But I feel comfortable that the Coen brothers could do it.